Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make sense. Hi everyone. I love the way how making this podcast is helping me connect with old friends and acquaintances again. Today I talked to Anton. I got to know Anton in the rooms of NA, but we have not seen each other for a very long time. As explained in the recording, we at least kept contact on WhatsApp, if only because Anton sends me the weirdest jokes, memes, gifts and videos. He truly does have a wicked sense of humor. Anton is an engineer who lives with his life partner and their adopted son in Camps Bay, Cape Town. I am excited to hear about his spiritual journey. Let's get to it then. Hey Anton, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
I'm very glad to hear that. Thank you so much for driving all the way from Cape Town to come and talk to me. I know it's quite a trip from where you are to me in the Platteland, but I really appreciate it. Anton, I haven't seen you in
at least
6 years.
Yeah.
But at least we stayed in contact through WhatsApp. Anton has a vicious sense of humor. He sends me the most disgusting things on WhatsApp and I love it. So at least we at least we have that sense of contact. So it was really surprising the other day when you called and said, how am I doing?
Yeah, the black humor is sometimes the stuff that I receive is so bad I can't even listen to it.
I love it, I really do. So tell me, since we've seen each other, how have you been?
Yeah, I've done very well. When I've relapsed about 3 years ago. I'm clean from my cocaine addiction for more than 8 years now, but after I've been clean for 5 years, I had a very quick relapse on alcohol, very quick in and out.
You were about 6 months, 8 months ahead of me. Am I right? I came in November 2009.
Yeah, well, my date is 27th July 2009.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was from cocaine.
Yeah.
So we had the same DOC.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'll speak about the alcohol relapse, which was very little to do about the alcohol and much more about where my spiritual journey is today. It was it had a significant impact, and with all these type of things, this in retrospect that the negative things are important in our life now.
What I find really difficult is I still struggle to know where I am emotionally. It's only when I act out on whatever where I realize that I wasn't actually in a good space, or I was feeling upset, it's always a retroactive realization that I have, which I find difficult.
Yeah, I've got, my current thinking is a lot around the mind, and where you are as a soul compared to what the mind does and think and wants to do, and and emotions belong to the mind, not to the soul. So. Yeah, I mean, often these things you react, and it's only in retrospect where when you, with some form of clarity, try to see what happened that you realized where the mind came in. And,
You don't have a process addiction. You are addicted to alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, not even alcohol, I would say. The advantage of the relapse was that, because I knew it's not an alcohol thing, it was a mind thing. But yeah, I originally was a workaholic. And I used to stay in Pretoria and work in Johannesburg. And when I was in a bad mood on a weekend, I'll drive all the way to Johannesburg to the office and work so I can feel better. So that was definitely my first addiction.
Was the form of escapism, just not dealing with life?
Not dealing with life.
Your desk,
yeah. Isn't that the definition of addiction? Is we want to escape. Whatever works to help you escape. In my case, it happened to be drugs later in life. Alcohol interesting. When I drank excessively for many years of my life, but I never considered it as an addiction, but it was definitely helping to lull the thoughts. So it's only during my alcohol relapse that I noticed that alcohol helped me not to face things. It didn't mean I was addicted in all the years before I got drug addicted. But it also prevented me from thinking about stuff seriously. The other factor, well, I suppose the biggest factor in my life that shaped me spiritually is severe depression that I suffered for many, many years and still do. Except I'm slowly but surely growing up, so I'm getting to... I'm just an extremely slow learner. But,
growing up or growing old?
Growing up as well.
I think I'm growing old before I grow up. That's a huge problem for me in my life. Major depression problems that caused my spirituality to start, at least. I grew up in a typical NG church religious household, not much so, but still, in Cape Town, Pretoria, Johannesburg, Pretoria.
I would say late 20s, the depression started more and more and more, and at one stage I started going into a little bit of alternative reading and then meditation and those type of things. Addiction and depression is probably the best tools we have to grow spiritually.
Yeah,
and unfortunately,
they go hand in hand as well.
They go very much hand in hand, and I would have preferred to grow spiritually in other means, but that was my.
You would have preferred another journey.
Like an angel coming down or something.
Tap you on the head with a wand and say, "You are now spiritual."
Yeah.
So you grew up Dutch Reformed.
Yeah.
And were you kind of a good religious boy? Did you do were you forced to go to church, or is it something that came to you naturally, or how did that happen?
I did it because it's the thing that a good boy does, but there was stages, which I vaguely can remember, that I tried to take this thing seriously, but it just never ever touched anything.
It didn't stick.
Yeah, something didn't run through. That was, and that, in those days I didn't even know much about Islam and any of those type of things, but that whole dogma thing, there was something about it that was just not true. I did it because I went through the motions, because that's what you do, the traditionalist thing, but it was not the religious thing.
And the whole education system was what Christian national education.
Yeah.
So that's what the education system was based on. We had no choice, really.
And the worst thing of a conservative household, by definition, is that I was not exposed to anything else.
Yeah.
And I never had the opportunity to think about things differently. I just had to assume that I was told is right and it's true, and therefore I was a bad Christian.
Yeah. I always say that two things my parents never warned me about was drugs and men. And look at me now. And it's not that they were bad parents. It's just that it didn't feature in the reality that the child might be exposed to drugs or might turn out to be gay or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just not in the frame of reference.
Yeah.
And talk about conservative upbringing, that's the kind of the restriction that we face.
I always say, when one of my biggest wishes in life is that I could have been dumb and religious. Don't you think it's bliss? Just to believe what you hear and just carry on with life. It must be bliss to not question anything.
I always thought of myself as, because part of our education system was, I don't think our education system in Afrikaans schools specifically taught us to question and to think.
No, there was also that aspect of you listen to your superiors and,
Exactly,
you don't question things. When that is a definition of not being liberal, it's a perfect example of not, it's frowned upon to think outside the box.
Absolutely. But at least where I am now in my life, I can look back at the way I questioned something like organized religion. So at least I did think. So somewhere deep inside there was a thinking entity, which is quite a powerful way to look at things. So you went through school and then you went to varsity.
Yeah, Technicon, but first army, military.
Ah,
I don't think I want to go there.
do we don't want to go back there, or where did you do your service?
Infantry school.
Oh my God,
At Surin, and then a year up in that was what was 81. It was in the midst of the war times. So yeah, I saw some horrible things, and
So you were on the border.
yeah.
Oh wow.
And through my years, I've got a master's degree in rehab and and telling psychologists and psychiatrists how things work.
Yeah. Well, you could.
Yeah.
And you have a right to after that.
Yeah.
It's really, really upsetting and disconcerting to think how people were thrown into that extremely traumatic, high-stressed environment, and then suddenly one day, you're now finished.
Yeah.
And that's it. So they plonk you back into life. No support system, no therapy, nothing.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, the psychiatrists, psychologists over the years, I've seen so many of them always try to focus on that army period of my life because of the things that happened. And I don't think I'm in denial anymore. I just analyze it too bad. I just don't think it did affect me. The interesting thing is that the household I grew up in was very, very strict and rigid. When I can't remember my mother and father ever holding hands, but I also can't remember ever having a fight. There were no animals in the house, and no plants in the house, and no music, no books. It was a very sterile environment. Yeah. And me being a little sensitive gay boy that, God forbid, took art in school, like only Morpheus did, was when in some way or another I managed to build this brick wall around myself, protecting myself emotionally, because it clearly didn't work in my household. And by the time, and it's actually the biggest part of my life, as a boy, I really can't remember. Only in deep hypnosis that I'll remember things. So I did block out things, and then I went to the army, and that was in the middle of the war times. I was infantry. We did a terrible thing with corpses. When there's so much detail and graphic detail about what we did, and it really didn't affect me then. And in retrospect, like I said, all the psychologists and psychiatrists trying to figure out how could you possibly have done that and not have a scar. I really don't think I did. I think my brick wall was by then already so well formed that it just didn't affect me.
At what stage did the gay thing come out?
Thank God, that was the easy thing. My father died when I was 20, and I came out at 22.
Okay, after the army.
Yeah, after the army, and when in retrospect, I always knew there's something. But I was a typical straight boy playing rugby because my father think I should. But I didn't know I was gay. But in retrospect, I should have known. But there was things that I like wonder why I find certain men in a photo more attractive than a woman in some level, whatever. But I didn't realize it consciously at that stage. But then suddenly it's a guy at work, and when I had a girlfriend at that stage, and things happened at the party, and I think I fall out of a closet in a period of a week. So, I just swapped. Yeah,
making your entrance with your usual flair.
Strangely enough, I mean, there was not much issues, And of course, my mother was very upset. When I eventually told her, I pretended to be with girls, and when started seeing boys, and of course lied to my mother until I met my partner, which is still my partner today. This year, 31 years.
Oh my God!
And so until I met him, and it just felt wrong to lie about him in my life, I decided to tell my mother, and of course it was all the tears and things. But bless her soul, irrespective of the weird woman she might have been, and question to me was, do you love him? And I said, yes, I do. She said, but then I've got nothing to say, because God is about love.
Whoa. Well, that's
enlightening. And that was her stamp of approval and a thing. And irrespective of all the hard sore it caused her, in her mind, the fact that I loved him made it okay.
That's fantastic. And he's not Afrikaans and he's not South African.
No, yeah. He came to South Africa from Holland to do, he's also a civil engineer.
Okay.
He came to do his practical. And yeah, we met at the same in an office.
Okay. Oh my God. You just
in those days, yeah. We had to do some serious lying and maneuvering to...
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. In terms of school, army, varsity days, where did you stand spiritually? Where did you stand religiously at that stage of your life?
Well, I suppose you should ask compared to what? Because if you ask me today where I stand spiritually, I say very far down below because I believe there's so much that I don't know. But in those days, as far as the norms were concerned and whether you're a good Christian or not, I suppose I lived a life as a good Christian, irrespective of sex and all those things. But in normal terms, being a good person. But that was just religion. It was just.
Did you attend church and those type of things?
Yeah, I did in school days. After school, of course. The moment I didn't need to go there anymore to please my parents,
that's such a trend.
Didn't do it. No. And I suppose the closest I came to God in most of my years, all the way up to around about 30, was the guild periods.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose NGs as well. We guild taught. It's such a guild-based religion, but that's basically all I can remember is the guild. Okay. Nothing more than that. And I just ignored it. And then later in my life, as the depression got more and more, I started thinking deeper and deeper. And that's where the spirituality started developing. The church never did it for me.
Okay. So for you, nearly your first true search of some form of spirituality, of a higher being, was through depression.
Yeah.
At what stage in your life did the depression kick in?
Late 20s.
Okay.
More and more. So the first time I was hospitalized for that was, I think, age 33.
Okay.
Yeah. But, I started questioning things, because there's more, there's more, and you also wonder why you think like you do, and the medical explanation, as much as it's true, that when it's proven true that there's a chemical something. That's one side of the story, but there's also the question of whether you would have been as depressed as you were, given your biochemical conditions, excluding a negative upbringing.
Yeah.
Would you have been depressed as well or not, or would you just have been somebody that's generally in a lower mood than the average person out there?
The glass half empty type of person.
Yeah.
That the glass is half empty type of person.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize that until I met my husband.
Yeah.
Where he's just not like that. It suddenly dawned on me one day that kind of, he seems to always be happy. He always seems to be okay. While I'm always kind of not happy and always kind of not okay.
Yeah.
And that being clean and sober and life going well. And I also suffer from depression, and I go through phases where I'm not on medication, and for periods I do well, but eventually the chemical imbalance clicks in and I really, really suffer.
Yeah.
And last year this time was one of those periods where I was off my antidepressants for 2-3 years, and it just suddenly clicked in again. And I'm back on antidepressants, and my life is awesome again.
Yeah, no, in earlier days of my life, I did try and go off antidepressants with disastrous consequences. But so I just don't even consider it anymore. It's just part of my life. I mean, I do change it now and then, which I say you should. And I do think you should go and see a psychiatrist like once every 2 years just to check up on whether all your stuff is still okay.
I see one every 6 months.
6 months is the norm. It's the right thing. But I mean, there was a stage that I just always, every 6 months, phoned the psychiatrist for a new script. And things that go wrong. When I went to see a new psychiatrist, they were actually quite shocked that I that the psychiatrist continues
to
prescribing me the same thing for such a long period. I mean,
no, I love talking about myself far too much than to skip a psychiatric appointment. And I really, really love my psychiatrist. She's not at standard. I always say she gets her hands dirty. She challenges me, and I really love it. I enjoy our appointments thoroughly. So depression led you to start questioning. And did you get any answers? Did it come to any realizations for you?
Yeah, because of the depression, when you go through, of course, these negative thought patterns, and I can't remember how I started, but I believe that meditation in some form or another must surely help, which I suppose it did. I started thinking differently of things, perhaps not, but the main impact there was that I think, in my case, I'm speaking about my case, in meditation, I think you develop a gut feel of there's something more.
Yeah.
You know? I'm sure there's lots of people out in the world that meditates that don't believe in any form of a God at all. But when there's definitely something, a form of knowing was coming, I think, when you meditate. For me, that I don't know if I questioned so much religion. I just knew that I didn't want to do religion.
Okay.
And meditation was a way of trying to control my mind. A lot of my meditation up to today still is more quieting up the mind.
Okay, yeah.
I never did the type of meditation where you concentrate on something specifically, and I don't do meditation in a specific position or something because it sounds too much like a religion. I do meditation mainly to quiet my mind, and in later years, knowing or having the faith that as long as I keep my mind out of meditation and just be, if God, whatever that concept of God is, want to communicate with me, and I don't mean in words, but want to communicate with me, at least the little bit I can do to offer a clean slate. At least it's not cluttered with all my mind stuff and my obsessions. So, of course, over years and years of meditation, there's only a few times that I did had some sort of an insight.
Okay.
A friend of mine, and that's now fairly recently, so many years of depression and meditation. I stayed with him for a while because of job I had to do in Johannesburg, and I decided to stay there rather than somewhere else. He was a very good friend of mine, and he asked me, why do you meditate every single day of your life? And I said, because I never know where the magic is going to happen.
I like that.
Because the magic does happen. You know? There's like a blip of insight. Now, if you count all my insights, if you want to call it that, together in my life, and you time it, it's probably not much more than a few seconds. But the beauty of an insight is that it's so true that it just is.
Yeah.
And you can't explain that insight to anybody else. It's difficult enough explaining a dream that was fairly realistic to somebody else. How can you explain an insight?
Yeah.
And if you only got 28 letters, and it sounds like a bit, and you try to explain this phenomenon with this 28.
The picture I get is lightning. I mean, lightning is a split second, but the impact of it is huge where it strikes. So the same with your meditation.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a split second, but when it does, it makes an impact.
Yeah, it does.
I like what you're saying. My mind wanders during meditation, but I allow it to wander because it brings me to places. I get creative. I get new creative ideas, and I see those as messages. I see those as that's where my mind needs to go type of thing.
Yeah, meditation is not, like I say, I try to clean my mind. But if my mind then does wander, it's okay if it wanders if you know it's wandering.
Yeah.
If you can follow it and you are aware where it's going.
Yes.
It's a rocky road because you quick can go into when it can slip away from your
Absolutely, yeah.
awareness. But if you can keep it there, yes, definitely. My insights and things does form into words. If you understand what I mean, you've got an insight, and for it to register, it's got to register in some form of language. So, and therefore you need thoughts. I don't say thoughts shouldn't be, but as long as you're quite aware of where your thoughts are going.
Yeah. To keep your eyes closed.
I can in cases if I'm in an environment where I don't have moving. I'm not meaning a tree moving in a wind, but not moving objects, and then I can go into quite deep meditation without.
Okay.
But I prefer to keep my eyes closed.
Cool. So, what do you believe in today?
Today, the only thing that I'm 100% can say that I believe in is that tomorrow I'm going to believe differently than today.
Okay. Can you be a bit more specific than that? Give me more to work with here, Anton.
I believe that this is a process. That if you're willing to walk the road, you grow spiritually. And what I thought about if you had this interview last year, and if you have the same interview next year, when it's going to be three, and compared to today, it's going to be three totally different points of view.
Okay. That's actually a nice idea. Maybe I should do that.
to me, it's a given. That if next year's interview was the same as today, that I grow, not.
Yeah, that's true.
Then I do think that you grow spiritually, and unfortunately, the bigger the pain, the quicker the growth. Yeah. That's unfortunate, but I suppose that's just a paradox of how it is. So, and pain doesn't need to, I'm not meaning major depressive pain, but discomfort, because there's a part of you that doesn't want to change. No?
I call that dis-ease.
Yeah, dis-ease.
My disease is, dis-ease is a significant part of it.
Yeah.
And it's through that dis-ease that I actually grow. I seek
that's a given. So yes, compared to from where I come from and where I am now, of course I don't know where I'm going, but I do know that I'm growing, and the growth comes in spurts, because when it will be a long period of time that I'm content, and then suddenly realize, but I do think about things differently, or there will be at a time that I'm discontent. And I'm terribly kicking about this discontentness, and then I go into a better phase. And in retrospect, when I look back, I said, "My God, my whole way of thinking about things changed." And I'm not speaking phenomenal, different things. It's just there's like I just said, it's very difficult to define these real things in words and language. But you just know that things change. And
a thought just hit me while you were talking, and that is that you said your boy is now 11 years old.
Yeah.
In which way does he influence your spiritual thinking, if at all? Because when you spoke about growth, I thought about this small child that grows, and obviously in some way you must also guide him. Do you?
Well, firstly, it sounds like when I gave him a job by adopting him, because he did a phenomenal impact on the way I think about things. First and foremost, it's impossible otherwise to understand the concept of unconditional love.
Yeah.
Before we adopted him, I had some sort of idea of what love means, but romantic love and all those type of loves, it's just it's you just can't compare with a boy, and they love back to you, which is totally unconditional, and then things he says, and that the kids bring things back to just what is. When, for example, when I worked in Johannesburg, and he was very unhappy with me commuting between Cape Town and Johannesburg, and he was crying and negotiating with me, trying to stay longer in Cape Town. And then at one stage he said he'll help me looking for another job in Cape Town. And then he said, I must become a policeman, and I said, it's too dangerous, and then this and that. And he said, oh, I know, you can become a bus driver. I said, yeah, but there's enough money. I'm not going to be able to buy you the toys.
Look at this house. Who's going to pay for this?
Yeah, and I won't be able to buy you toys and things.
Sweet,
and he said, but Dad, money is not everything.
Oh, sweet.
And he said, I don't want toys anymore. I want you to stay in Cape Town. So
that's so sweet.
That's when I decided to ask for transfer to the Cape Town office with a big risk of losing my job. But it was actually not a question anymore.
And it turned out well for you anyways.
I'd rather be poor with my son than having... So, yeah, it worked out fantastic. I got the transfer.
That's beautiful.
And I'm very fortunate to be extremely close to this boy. I've got a nice thing about it. That's just what I like to believe. But my partner and I was speaking for many, many years about the adoption and the pros and the cons. I mean, a gay couple to adopt you're going through enormous thinking processes, and the pros and the cons. And until a friend one day got so upset with it. He said, I'm so tired of this. It's a 50-50, you know? There's going to be advantages, disadvantages, 50-50 between you and what a kid might get out of it. So very shortly after that, after a period of something like 7 years, my partner walked into my office one Monday morning after we had the discussion yet again that weekend. Because often he said, you'll say, okay, let's adopt it. And I say no, I say yes, and he said no. That Monday morning, he walked into my office, said, let's adopt. I had the numbers and things because we investigated this before. So while he's sitting in my office, we called and said that we want to adopt. And they called us very shortly thereafter. And that was in November. They called it shortly thereafter, and they said they might have a boy for us. And then I said we can have him in January.
Oh, wow.
And we said, oh, wait. No, normal people's got 9 months to think about this, 2 months is a bit short. But anyway, we got him. And only after...
Because that must have been frantic. Yeah. How old was he when you got him?
9 weeks.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. The boy's got phenomenal, I know most parents say, but
that must have been one of the scariest things you've ever done in your life.
I don't know. I think about it so often that when this whole spiritual journey, what would it have been without it? Firstly, I honestly, as I'm sitting here, don't think I would have been alive. Today without him, because it was twice in my life that when the suicide was quite deeply planned, and the only thing that kept me from doing it was my boy.
Wow.
And it's easy to say. I don't know if you would have done it or not. And like I said, I don't want to give him a job. It's not his job to keep me alive or keep me sober. And perhaps I would have relapsed, or I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't have him. But over an effect of the drugs part of it, whether that happened or not, all that I do know is that there's a depth of experience of something bigger out there that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for him.
Okay. And the really nice thing is that he would hardly know you in addiction. He was really small before you came into recovery.
Yeah. The bad thing is, by the time we decided to adopt was when I came out of my second rehab. So, and I was quite convinced that's all is fine. And we got him, and then I relapsed just after that. The first time in my life after that I went into rehab all on my own. Previously, I actually did it for my partner.
Okay.
And this time, when I went into rehab, I didn't even do it for my partner or not even for my boy.
It was for you?
That was for myself. That's something I must explain about the addiction and spirituality. It was a major turning point in my life. Now, my boy at that stage was about 2 years old. He used to go to a creche in Hout Bay. And we stayed in Camps Bay, so every morning and afternoon we drove the road between Camps Bay and Hout Bay. And like I said, I relapsed, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And that's when one of my major suicide points came, because I just couldn't stop the drugs. And my partner knew how bad it was, but he sort of pretended, tried to keep us together as a family and make things as normal as it could possibly be.
Oh.
It just got worse and worse, and I couldn't get myself out of addiction. And the only way I could see life to be better for my partner and my boy, that I both dearly love, was to take myself out of the equation.
Okay, yeah.
So the one Monday morning, I dropped him off at the Christian Houtbay, and on my way back, I drove on this beautiful road, and it was like picture perfect, cliche beautiful. But the problem is, I could have taken a photo and showed to anybody and say, look how beautiful it is. But I suddenly had this realization that I've got no soul. I'm this organism moving around with just nothing inside.
Oi.
And I broke down, started crying, probably the first time in, I think, 24 years.
Oh.
And got home and went down on my knees, and I, up to today, don't know who and what I prayed for, but I did pray very, very seriously. And that was between, I always say to people, it is quite very specific. It was between 9 and 10 o'clock on Monday morning, the 27th of July 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I got up there, threw away my drugs, went to see a pastor, booked myself into rehab, and the last time ever I used. So the beauty of this paradox is the moment I realized that I absolutely no soul.
Absolutely.
It was just. And that's why I didn't want to relapse. And when my partner and my boy, when they left me afterwards, and I was single and lost everything, all my money, my partner, that's the only person I ever loved in my life, not my mother or my father, and the boy that I always wanted, suddenly everything was out of my life. And the reason I didn't relapse was not because of anything else other than I can't possibly stand the idea of not having a soul again.
Yeah.
Because I know there's this cliche that they say the advantage of being an addict is you don't need to go to hell because you've been there already. But I'm not saying it was a hell experience, but not having a soul experience is horrific.
Yeah.
And that's what kept me from going back there again.
That's awesome.
And when I did relapse 5 years ago, but it was on alcohol, why I such a big fright, I'd rather book myself into rehab, because I thought, if I go down this path, losing my soul again, I won't be able to cope with it. So.
Oh, yeah. I love that part of a meeting where we light the candle. And it says this symbolizes the movement from the darkness of active addiction to the light of recovery. Because for me, there is such a clear line in my head between the dark times and the light times.
Yeah.
There's no, and I just cannot, I never ever want to move to the dark side again. It was just really too dark and too awful.
Yeah.
So Anton, as of today, are you happy?
That's a.
What's happy?
Not answering immediately doesn't mean I don't know. It's just what is happy. If you ask me, are you content? I would have said without hesitation, yes.
Okay, cool.
But what is happy? I think what I'm aiming towards is being joyous.
Cool.
If you want to play with words, and that's where my spiritual journey is going. Is that I am becoming more joyous. That's
fantastic.
It's just, happiness. I don't like the word. So sorry, that's why I hesitated. But
huge hesitation.
Content is just being it's either here nor there. But joyous is got more depth to me to the word. And like I said previously, now and then, a few split seconds in my life, I had sort of what you want to call an insight. I don't mean it to be dramatic. There was no visions or anything, but just a gut feel of something. And the joy of those few split seconds in my life far outweighs absolutely anything else. And if that is what enlightenment means, if that is what happiness means, then just that split second of knowing what real contented, real beauty, real joy is, then it's worth all this trouble. And that's my issue. That's my definition of heaven and hell. And in my thinking, it can't possibly be physical places. I actually find it strange that people still think they are. Perhaps I think about it differently in future. I don't know, but to me, it just can't be physical places. And without sounding dramatic, but that few split seconds of clarity that I did had in meditation in my life, if that is heaven, I can understand why religions like Christianity and Islam try to sketch to uneducated people gold and all these virgins and all these fantastic things, because even if I was the best versed person linguistically, I cannot describe that bliss. So I understand how the Bible and the Quran try to explain to people how absolutely beyond beauty this is, because you can't. Yes. It's just an insight. That's what I mean with the insight. It just is.
Another thing popped up for me now, and that is, you use the word joyous. Now, when I hear the word joyous, I think kind of a childish playfulness. Where do you stand with play? Do you have the ability to play?
I think I'm taking myself far too serious. I do try and think of things more lightheartedly sometimes, and I play not really anymore. I don't know. I can be totally, utterly silly with my boy, to the extent that my partner tell me I'm going to stop acting like a boy. I'm his father, not his friend.
Grow up. So you can play.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. We can
awesome.
play Lego together and go in imagination spectrums. It's fantastic.
Oh, the poor child. So he's got two engineers as fathers.
Yeah, but luckily one is normal. The other one is me.
Oh God, I can just see where that's going. The poor child. I must give you my business card because he's going to need it. Anton, I want to thank you so much for coming through. It was awesome chatting to you. I always think, what do I know about the person before I speak to them? And it's dawned on me suddenly that I know nothing about your journey. So it was quite nice to hear this today. And thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
It was really exciting to catch up with Anton and to hear about his spiritual journey. My experience with especially engineers is that they tend to intellectualize heart matters. Anton, it seems, has gone on a journey of discovery and has found what works for him, and I am really happy for him. He has gone through some difficult times in his recovery, but he has surely lived to tell the tale and to share his experience. I am very happy to have heard his story. I trust you enjoyed it too. If you want to know more about what I do, please feel free to connect with me on my website, which is www.freddy.org.za, or find me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/freddy.org.za/ or on Twitter at @RensburgFreddy. Remember that Freddy is always spelled with an IE at the end. Be safe. Bye.